Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name's Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Manny Cabo, and we're going to be talking about um, 5 things to learn when you come back from a dark place. But Manny, before we get into all of that seriousness, tell people where they can find you.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me on the show, Tim. It's
You're
great. I've been looking
welcome.
forward to this. And anything and everything that has to do with my world, Manny Cabo, as an entertainer, podcaster, photographer, author, is at mannycabo.com. All of my social media handles are attached on there. So you'll find everything that has to do with me. Go lose yourselves in it.
So I just wanted to kick off with actually talk about um, your childhood and
Mm,
growing up, um, because you're an artist, you're a producer, you have you even are able to sell your voice for voiceovers and stuff.
yeah.
So where do you think where did it all start for you?
You know, I think it all started where it almost never began. I've been an underdog since even before I was born. If I remember speaking to you, as I alluded to earlier, months back, I almost didn't make it in this world. Doctors tried to keep me back. They told my mom I'd have some complications. And, fast forward 53 years later, here I am still raising Cain. But I think I attribute my music intervention and passion is because of my parents. I grew up in a really eclectic household, growing up listening to music like El Tango, folk music, Motown, and of course the Beatles. The Beatles were iconic back then, and they still are to me now. So I think that created the foundation that led me to where I am today. And I'm very fortunate to have that versatile background and upbringing that my parents provided for me. My dad introduced me to a pair of drumsticks and a camera, and the rest, as they say, the rest was history, because my mom also was a singer when she was young. So the genes were already there, Tim. I couldn't escape it no matter how hard I tried.
And you had an upbringing because you're an English and a Spanish speaker. So you had
Yeah.
you've got a Latino Spanish
Right.
vibe as well as as an English speaking vibe as well.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's another advantage of mine because, Spanish was my first language, you know,
Right.
and learning to adapt to a new language for everyone else is new. Obviously, for me, I've been speaking it all my life. It certainly has its advantages because it has helped me in the workplace. It has helped me with relationships. It has helped me, you know, um, tackle the linguistic barriers of so many of my clients and friends or situations that I may come across, whether it's here at the deli or in my personal, excursions.
And so when did you first get into the music and realizing that you had art as a strength in your DNA?
I think it all started in grammar school. I would probably have to say about sixth grade. Back in the day, we had the big VCR cameras that you'd have to do a routine of working out to be able to pick up these portable VCR boxes. So a good friend of mine, his dad was a lawyer, so he's pretty well off, and he was able to buy all this equipment, which he never used. So of course, the light bulb went off to myself, and my friends were like, "Wait a second, this could be pretty cool." And we started making movies. And here I am at
Wow.
the tender age of what, 12 years old. We were going to reliving 007 movies. I was always playing killer for Jason and Halloween takes. And we had so much fun. And I realized it was never work. We would literally be out in the park probably 10, 11, 12 hours. We'd have to at one point, we almost got arrested because we were doing a take off of Scarface, and we went in so far as creating bags of fake cocaine, and we had like 13, 14 cops. We had helicopters. We didn't realize, the gravity of the situation. We were kids, but that goes to show you, at that age, all we were focused on is making magic and creating visuals, that for our friends. I already knew that at that age, I'm like, this is what I want to do. I need of some sort, whether it's an actor, whether it's creating soundtracks or something to that effect. That was my calling. So that's where it all started. Ironically, it started visually. It didn't start so much on the musical side, but that just slowly, began its progression, if you will, and started marinating
Do
with
you think?
music.
Do you think any of those? Did you video any of those to use rather than the word video rather than film?
Yeah, they're still around, probably in my archives, and I think I managed to salvage those because they, at the time of Hurricane Ida, which you already know, I
Mhm.
think they were in my attic, so they
Right.
were unscathed, thankfully. So I would have to really delve deep and find out where they are. But I would be curious to see. Just sit back one night with a glass of bourbon and just watch our idiocies come out on the silver screen.
It'd be fantastic.
Oh, it would be. It would be.
So when did you get into? So you did the movie piece and that,
Yeah.
and then but you've also got into photography and music and not only creating music but also
Right.
producing music. So how did
Yeah.
that happen as well?
I think my dad introduced me to the world of drums, and I started playing drums at the tender age of 13, as I said before. And
Oh
I,
wow, that's a
I
good age.
joined,
Yes.
yeah, I joined the school play. And in that year, this goes to show you, I hated school, by the way, Tim. I hated,
Mm.
I hated college. I hated everything. But when it came to the arts, I created my own photography student union. I created my own music photography group slash. So I knew right then and there that there were certain things that I was going to be terrible at and certain things that I was really going to excel in. Music was one of them. And when I joined in grammar school, the school play, I loved it so much that I directed my own play in 8th grade. And this faculty loved it more than what the teacher was actually doing, who was in charge of creating the school play of the year. And that was pretty epic for me. It was 2 plays. Obviously, I did the Halloween version of Michael Myers, it had to be
Okay. Yeah.
G-rated, obviously. And then a Charlie Brown Christmas. Um, it was pretty epic, man. I can look back right now and I remember and I recall the whole situation. I was like, wow, this is awesome. I could definitely do this for the rest of my life. And I played drums. I didn't act in the play, but I played drums. So here I am playing and directing everybody. You go, get out of there. You're on stage right now. So it was pretty cool.
And that's carried on in terms of your life, in terms of
Yeah,
using your use not only being a musician but also producing other musicians as well.
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It has definitely significantly been a big help. Obviously there's been a lot of work behind the scenes, a lot of education. I spent countless hours researching and listening to different types of music, understanding the career, the business side, as well as the creative side, not only in production, but in songwriting. And sometimes, it required a huge sacrifice. Like, for example, I moved to Nashville for 2 years with my family
Okay.
just to become a better. So
Mm.
there are certain level of commitments that a lot of musicians are not willing to make. And
Mm.
at that point, you have to question yourself. Listen, if I'm not willing to take these risks, then I probably shouldn't be in this industry. Because let's face it, Tim, between you and me and the phonograph behind you, it's not for the weak of heart. You know,
Right.
you really have to dig deep. And in most cases, it's feast or famine. If you're in this career for the fame and the wealth and the mansions and the Rolls Royce Phantoms, yeah, you better do something else because it's not going to happen that way. You know?
And I think it's the same with anything to do with something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, I'm forever remembering lyrics in songs.
Yeah.
And my partner says to me, "So how do you remember all these things?" And I said, "I don't. It just happens, and it's because I'm passionate about music.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
It's
thing
a lot
just
easier to commit to memory is what it is.
yes."
It really is.
And the thing is, you do know what trying to get my you do know what one of those is, which I find interesting.
Absolutely. That's a classic Smith Victor, man. Like I was telling you before, I have one of those coming to me, just don't have any room for it with tons of 78s, tons of replaceable needles. I don't know. It's just very nostalgic. It truly is. I miss that. And as you can see behind me to the left, I don't know if you could really see it. There's a record player here. I will never,
I can't quite see it, but I'll take
you
your
know
word
what?
for it.
If I can here, look, I'm going to see. There it is. There's the record player.
Oh
See it?
yes, and you got some vinyl underneath as well.
Yes, I do. You gotta have vinyl. You got to. I would take vinyl over the digital production any day of the week. And I know we've made some great strides in the digital realm, but nothing captures the sound. The quality of analog is just unprecedented. It really is. And I know because I live it every day, you know.
So in terms of some of that your background, you've been through a number of very traumatic things.
Mm,
You ended up watching your dad die of COVID,
yeah.
and you got hit by a hurricane.
Mm. That's a
So,
1-2
so,
punch,
so
and the
talk,
pandemic.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So talk us through that.
Well, you know what? Obviously, those are the things that you don't plan for in life. I think the most difficult thing for me with my dad was I never had a chance to say goodbye. He's here with me one day. I drop him off at the hospital. That was the last time I saw him. So that
That's
still
terrible.
haunts me.
Mm.
It is. It's terrible. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And till this day, it affects me. But I had to learn to let go of certain things, certain feelings of guilt, perhaps. That I was dealing with. And then um, months later, I get hit with Hurricane Ida. I
Yeah,
basically lost 25 years of my livelihood. And as an entertainer who we just went through this difficult episode with the pandemic where there was no touring, there were no performances, there was nothing going on, and we were all scrounging out to make, ends meet. Then I get hit by this hurricane that just washed me away completely. No equipment left. I had to use borrowed equipment. I was doing lives from my cell phone, and I think this lends itself to the conversation we were going to talk to today. We talk about today rather is, the element of resilience and the things that you focus on during these trying times. Let me tell you, there were times where I was very transparent. I was crying in front of the whole world. There were like 500, 600, up to 1,000 people watching me live from my lawn. I was sitting on my furniture. Everything was gone. Where I'm sitting right now, this used to be my garage. It was filled with 10 feet of water plus the 15 feet of water in my rec room and actually my basement where that was where my studio was located. So everything was gone. And what do you say to somebody when they literally lose everything? Family member, equipment, your livelihood. There's
mm,
nothing you could really say. So
mm.
at that point, it was pretty traumatic, yes, but there were tons of decisions that I had to make, with respect to, all right, where do I go from here? That was the challenge. I just wanted to crawl in that little corner and cry like a little boy, which I did many a times because at that point,
I should think that that's actually quite therapeutic.
it really is. You have to mourn. For those of you watching right now, that is the one thing that I could definitely counsel all of you on. We all deal with loss differently. But
Mm,
nonetheless, we have to deal with it. We have to face it. The more we face it, the more we talk about it, the more we engage with it and understand why we're feeling this way, the more we disarm the intensity, you know. Um, it's very therapeutic and you just have to mourn. The more you lose, the more you mourn and the more you're grateful for these experiences in your life. And I know you're probably like, what the hell are you talking about? How can you be grateful for experiences like that? But, that's a very loaded response, and I can really get into that if you'd like me to. But you had to make some really difficult decisions at that time.
I think that gratitude is very important,
Mm,
and I think that actually um, realizing what you have, even though you may have lost. I lost my father last November, um,
sorry
but
for your loss.
I realized that there was a whole bunch of things that I walked away from his funeral actually enriched.
Yeah,
And there've actually certain things that I've actually values that I've taken on myself.
yeah.
And in a way, his passing, I'm grateful because I've actually learned a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The reason why I say I still embrace the element of gratitude because 200 feet down the road, 4 people perished. They didn't make it. I'm
Right.
still here. So it's things like that that you really have to take into account. My family was still left behind. I had furniture, I had a bed to sleep in, so it wasn't a complete loss, but I could have actually made that decision and said, "Oh my god, I lost everything," and just crawl up into the abyss of doubt, and depression and fear. But I chose not to. I said, "Listen, man, I've been given a second chance here. I made it through another day. So let's leverage that opportunity and be grateful because I've learned so much from the culmination of these experiences. I've created a different outlook, Tim. I got to tell you, things like that change you. I went through PTSD for a while. Every time it rained,
Yep.
I got so nervous, and
Yeah.
people don't understand that. I finally understood what a trigger was, what PTSD really was. And obviously, you can't compare it to a military type of PTSD where you have bombs going off, but the experience, what's left behind, it almost like it's a constant resonance, and you're reliving that day of trauma because I thought we were going to have to get helicoptered out here. So every time it rains, I get all of this montage of memories that come back to me, and it's messed up, man. So it is. And again, I want to stress, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. It's just an
Yeah.
awful
So
experience.
what out of this has been able to inspire you?
I think the fact that I'm still here to keep grinding, to
Mm.
educate other people of what I
Yeah.
went through that would assist
Yeah.
them in their lives, dealing with loss on all levels, dealing with a different type of mindset. And it's really difficult to do, Tim. But, fortunately for me, I've got a lot of bullets in my belt that I can refer to.
Right. And I think that and I really appreciate you coming on here because I think you coming on here and sharing your story is
Mm.
part of the inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even if one person listens to it and one person walks away with and says, they're going to make a change or whatever it is, that's a win, isn't it?
Absolutely. You could focus on the lack all day if you want, but guess what? You're going to get more of that. If you
Yeah,
focus
I
on the
mean,
resilience.
you're never going to change. Is it 8 million? You're never going to change the 8 billion people in the world, but we
Right.
could at least change one.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm not even looking to change anyone. What I'd like people to do is at least offer them that option. There is a viable option in times of need where you can't rely on other people. I'm sorry. Nobody really cares half the time. They really don't. They say they do, but a lot of them don't. They don't care how wealthy you are, how poor you are. A lot of people are too worried about themselves. And again, that's not a blanket statement. I might get backlash for that. I really don't care because that's a fact of reality of what I deal with in my world. But you can't rely on other people for your happiness. Happiness is an inside job and it's a lot of work. But these traumatic experiences are a huge test and testament for what I went through and how I did it. Anyone else can do it. But I would like to at least give them that option, give them or teach them, provide them with the tools that will help them get through those difficult moments, if you understand what I'm saying.
And do you think that's your own belief and resilience that supported that?
I think it's one of them. Sure. I think it has a lot to do with your experiences, your upbringing, your education. I taught myself a lot. I've read the best of the best, My Manipulation, Joe Dispenza. I've read all of these books with respect to how to tackle negativity, how to tackle, the naysayers, how to tackle self-doubt. You have to educate yourself. You really, really do. Therein lies the caveat because I could finish the show and tell everybody, yeah, I made it through. That's not to say it's easy. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the reps, and everyone needs to do that inner work from time to time. And that's what helped me get through the the turmoil of the situation. I had done the prep work prior to that, where I said, wait a second, let me slam on the brakes here. I'm not going to um, fall victim to all this. I'm better than that.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm still alive. There's an
Yeah.
opportunity for me to grow and rebuild. And sometimes, these storms come in not to wipe you away, but to clear the storms in itself from your life. And that's a tough pill to swallow. But for me, that's exactly what happened because it changed my life for the better.
And so you're a big fan of authenticity. So
Yes.
you are who you are.
Yes.
Uh,
Everyone
um,
should be who they are. That's the thing,
yes,
And
yes, we are, and you're a great believer in self belief and being
yeah,
your best self.
100%. I think that it's very difficult to be somebody that you're not 24 hours a day. It's exhausting. It's stupid. We all have the unique quality to give in this world and in this life. And I think that we really need to dig deep inside to understand and love each other first before we could even think about loving anything else. And again, that's not coming from conceit or arrogance, and those that aren't ignorant understand what I'm saying. You really do. You have to have an affinity for who you are. Be grateful that you're even born. The percentages of us actually existing is minuscule. So we need to leverage this life and stop feeling sorry for ourselves. There's people, friends of mine that I know that don't even have arms or legs that are on top of the world. So many influencers out there. So, sitting in a corner and as I alluded to before, and feeling sorry for yourself has its place in time. I get that, but you have to cut down the refractory period. Don't sit in that space. Get over it. Deal with the mourning, deal with the loss, say, okay, great. I dealt with it. Now we need to pick the pieces up and move on and build a new puzzle. That's
Yeah.
my argument. And you know what? You have to be real with yourself. Of course it's hard, but I find myself, so many people out there worried about creating a life for themselves based upon the opinions of others. Never measure your success using somebody else's ruler. It's stupid. It's a
Yeah.
waste of time. You're going to be always let down. Always let down.
And you've just been sharing. I mean, one of your key points is vulnerability.
Mm,
I mean, you've been basically sharing your vulnerability over this
yeah.
this this interview,
Yeah.
and I think it's something that something that I've learnt over reading Brené Brown's books and stuff like that, which is
Mm,
vulnerability is actually a strength.
yeah. 100% it is. Yeah. That's got
And
sometimes.
if you're scared, or if you're, tell people.
It
I,
really is. That in itself is probably the strongest thing you could do. It's like asking someone for help,
mm,
because society has condemned things like that. We
mm,
fall victim to that belief system, and it's up to people like you and myself. My voice that I use on a daily basis, that I've been gifted with, that I've cultivated with, my responsibility is to use this voice to help people, to get them through the experience, to let them know, no, it's ridiculous. Be yourself, be proud of who you are. Let people know the difficult times that you've been through. Because guess what? You think you're the only one that's been through these difficult times? That's ignorant and arrogant at the same time. We've all been through different things. We all have different renditions of these tumultuous times in life. So I use my voice to help people get through that, to educate people how to get through these moments. And that's my job. I feel like if I don't do that, I'm doing a disservice to my ecosystem of artists. That's who I focus on, because that's what I know. I'm not going to boast knowing something that I don't know, but I live this. I can tell you, listen, Tim, you've been through a lot, but I can help you at least ease the pain and help you navigate through this maze of sometimes doubtful experiences, fearful experiences.
Manny, thank you so much for coming on. It's the 20 minutes is up, and it goes so quickly.
It does.
Um,
Wow. It's been 20 minutes already.
20 minutes already. Doesn't it? Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
remind people where they can find you.
Absolutely. Just go to mannycabo.com. Everything and anything that you need to find out with respect to my world is all there. From my book, my podcast episodes, all my social media handles, my YouTube channel, which I'm starting in about a month, the Mojo Minute Music Academy. That's going to have chock full of information for all my artists. And we're going to talk about stuff like this, how to get on interviews, how to talk about getting over these hurdles in life. So I'm really excited about that.
Excellent. It's a great place, and it sounds like you're going to be sharing some fantastic information as well. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. It's all going to be from the heart, again, being authentic with my own life.
Mm. Thank you so much, Manny, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me, Tim. You're the best.
You're